day. Robinson gets past his defender, and his shot is gone in! An exact replica of the goal he scored 2 weeks ago against KFA. And in just the past 3 weeks, he has 5 goals.
Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to MG Sports. I'm John Stewart. So, the Jamaica U17 Elite competition had its 4th game week this Saturday, and Kingston Football Academy claimed their first victory of the competition in a 2-0 win in the day's first game against Montego Bay United. So, the first goal came from Cavalier White, who continued his good form in the competition as he opened the scoring in the 15th minute through pass from Keyshawn Lewis. The second goal, however, came with just 2 minutes to spare in the half as a counter-attack was finished off by Robinho Morgan, who flicked it past new goalkeeper Carlisle Tinglin after a through pass from the informed Nikolai Banton. Morgan's goal was well-deserved, and he received the MG Sports Man of the Match, as a result. So, in a similar fashion, I guess, to last week's victory, it could be argued that the result didn't accurately depict just how dominant KFA were. Like, the level of control that they had over the game, spectacular. Montego Bay, they were really awful in position, and they really were unable to get out of their defensive third. Whenever they tried to build up from the back, it was really sloppy. Aside from the inaccurate passing from Javon Campbell and their backline in general, a lot of this was just down to their inability to keep the ball because of the press from KFA. So they'll definitely be feeling disappointed with the performance, Montego Bay United that is, as they played relatively well last week. And there were noticeable improvements last week in their ability to formulate attacks. But they definitely did miss the presence of Javon Anglin this Saturday, who scored in the last game. You know, his strength, his dribbling, his direct style of play would perhaps have tested the back line more. Jadine Morgan especially, who was at his best, had no issues with the threat of the forwards from Montego Bay United. Montego Bay United definitely had a lack of control over the midfield, which led to issues on both sides of the ball because going forward, because their midfield was nowhere to be found, they couldn't keep the ball long enough to get the ball into dangerous areas and generate enough chances for striker Carlando Morris. And even then, to be honest, when Morris had a couple of half chances, he was really unable to ever really turn them into anything more, into shots on goals, stuff like that, because of really poor decision making. The midfield obviously also had an adverse effect on their defense as well, because their defense did all they could to hold off KFA, but when you're facing wave after wave of attacks, there's only so much that you can do. And Khalid Fraser did all he could in this game to keep the scoreline respectable. So the midfielders didn't really offer themselves as passing options for Campbell and the rest of the defense, and as a result, a lot of Campbell's passes were going astray. They were either being intercepted before his teammates could even get to them, and that led to a lot of counter-attacks, which is pretty much how they scored their second goal. And if they somehow did find its target, after the passes, a second or two after getting these passes, the Montego Bay United players were getting closed down. So KFA definitely had all-around great performances, but I have to point out that a couple of standout performers on the day were Kakamari McCoy in the midfield, who was great yet again. He had a great game last week, and he was great again. And he and last week's man of the match, Nikolai Banton, were excellent at retaining position with quick passes and good off-the-ball movement. They spaced themselves on the field really, really well. You had Ryland Campbell also definitely stood out, played right back, and his dribbling enabled them to beat the sporadic press of Montego Bay United, and he was great at driving the team forward from deep. He's definitely a player to watch moving forward. And in the second game of the day, we had a long-awaited clash between two teams who were tied at the top of the table. And let me tell you, folks, I was definitely not prepared for what took place on the day. So Mount Pleasant, they took on Harborview, and a really surprising turn of events. The halftime scoreline read Harborview 3 and Mount Pleasant nil. So Kelvin Brown, he broke the deadlock in the 32nd minute, I believe, after he calmly evaded a defender just inside the box and placed the shot into the left corner, I think. And just 5 minutes later, Stephen John Beckford doubled Harborview's lead after Zaire Dose's free kick was fired into his path. And it only got worse from there as just a couple minutes left, like 10 minutes left in the half. Another set piece from Dose wasn't properly dealt with by the young goalkeeper Marco Dean Spence, and it allowed rather Tyreek Robinson to score his first of the game. Now, a couple of things stood out to me from that first half performance. One, a real lack of discipline from Mount Pleasant, as they ended up having a man sent off towards the end of the half after already being 2 goals down, I think. Um, Tyree Scott, I think, yeah, he was replacing the suspended Jaheim Douglas, who got a red card towards the end of last week's game against Cavalier, and he really put in a poor performance. A real lack of discipline led to that red card. He had received several warnings from the referee beforehand about, making certain challenges, and he had already had a yellow card and ended up just making a bad tackle and ended up in a second yellow. Zaire Dose, yet again, he could have, to be honest, he could have gotten the man of the match again today, yesterday rather. Played amazing. His 2 free kicks, they resulted in 2 of the goals, and he had the assist for Kelvin Brown's goal, which was the first goal. So he really could have gotten man of the match as well, but man of the match went to Tyreek Robinson, who yet again was on fire. Scored 2 goals, and that's his 5th goal in 3 games. Pretty sure he's the top scorer in the competition. And his last goal, which was made it 4 in the second half, beautiful, beautiful finish from about 25, 30 yards out, curled into the top corner. An exact replica, really, of a goal he scored 2 weeks ago. Pretty sure it was against Kingston Football Academy in the 4-2 win. So, yeah, he was rewarded, of course, with the man of the match, the MG Sports Man of the match, for a great performance. So, apart from Douglas, there were a couple of notable absentees from our present that must be said. Um, Miguel Joseph, integral part of Mount Pleasant's midfield, he was out. Of course, Jaheim Douglas, as I mentioned previously, he was suspended, and pretty sure Damien Herwood, their regular goalkeeper, he didn't start today. Instead, they had Marco Dean Spence, who was at fault for 2 of the goals. So let's be completely honest. He was at fault for 2 of the goals, unfortunately. And regardless, though, I don't think there is an excuse for such a poor showing, and they'll definitely be aiming to getting back to winning ways next week. And in the last game of the day, Cavalier took on Ballers Academy, and Cavalier would put an end to their winless streak with a 1-0 victory. Their goal coming from their star man, Damarley Williams, who scored deep into the second half, and of course was rewarded with the MG Sports Man of the Match. So far, that leaves Harborview after 4 game weeks on top of the table, standing alone with 12 points from 4 games, having won all their games. Mount Pleasant, of course, close behind on 9. Kingston Football Academy on the back of 2 consecutive victories, they're third with 6 points, while Cavalier, they're trailing in fourth place with 4 after, as previously stated, their first victory of the competition. Montego Bay, though, they're remaining in fifth with 1 point, and Balls Academy, they're last with no points thus far from 4 games. Stay tuned. We'll, of course, have more recaps and preview ahead of next week's games in Montego Bay. Stay tuned to MG Sports.